See, the question here, Vidya, is that unfortunately, I mean, if you look at the spectrum, right? If you look at India as an example, you open the Economic Times or any of the business papers front page, you'll see startups, unicorns screaming from the front pages every day. We have 68 million enterprises registered in India. The challenge is 96% of these 68 million enterprises employ less than 3 people.
Oh, wow.
Right? So there's massive missing middle.
Yeah.
Which means startups don't look at job creation. So let me step back a bit. What is the single biggest long-term challenge India and most countries have to solve is youth employment or youth unemployment. Right? India itself will add 150 million people to its workforce the next 10 years. We continue to be a younger population.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, all of these young people come with aspirations in their hearts.
Yeah.
Right? And hopes for a better future.
Yeah.
If we are unable to provide jobs for them or provide, I wouldn't even call jobs, economic opportunities for them.
Yeah.
Then, those aspirations will turn into frustrations and anger.
Yeah.
So I would argue that the single biggest challenge that we face as a country is job creation or economic opportunity creation. And therefore, two myths I want to bust is that I would frame a startup as an entity that is primarily can create more jobs. It's not about just technology. It's not about how many customers served, but can we look at job creation as one of the parameters, which unfortunately is not today.
It's not. I mean, I think if by Government of India definition, it's a revenue of 100 crores or something like that.
Correct. So I think as a startup founder, how do most people start thinking about job creation? Secondly, I don't think if we have to solve 100 million youth being employed, there is no single organization or a group of organizations that can achieve this. But what can potentially happen is in the next 10 years, if we can create 10 million enterprises, can hire 10 people each, then you would have solved for 100 million economic opportunities.
I really like that. So these enterprises are small businesses, the kiranas, the local stores.
Exactly. Wow. So I'll give you a very interesting experiment I did a couple of years ago, right? I went to a engineering college in Tumkur, outskirts of Bangalore district, and they wanted me to come and talk about a startup. I said, talk se kuch nahi hota hai. You don't need to talk, but can you give them to me for 2 weeks, for 2 hours a day? And the principal said, yes, you give them a project, whatever. So it was interesting. First day, we just went and talked about who are the entrepreneurs you know, and the usual names came up, right? Jeff Bezos and Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Narayan Murthy and stuff like that, right? About 400 people in the final year and pre-final year engineering. And then we asked them, what traits do you think make them an entrepreneur? And again, in 10 minutes, we had over 30 traits listed: hardworking, visionary, dedicated, etc. Then we did a small exercise to say, if you are sitting next to an entrepreneur in a bus, what are the 3 questions you will ask him or her to figure out if she is entrepreneurial or not? So we did a role play.
Okay.
Then we formed groups of 3 people each, and I asked them to go interview 5 entrepreneurs in a 10-kilometer radius. And the only caveat was none of these entrepreneurs must be greater than 10 people employed. So I didn't want them to walk into large factories or whatever, right? Smaller businesses. And I asked them to nominate one entrepreneur who they thought had the highest entrepreneurial energy. Okay. So it was fun. So we had about 100 teams talking to 500 businesses in a span of a week. And each of them came back with one, maybe a dhaba guy who they thought was inspiring because this guy came from Punjab, settled in Karnataka and said, this guy speaks better Kannada than I do. There's, therefore the customer connect as an example.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the interesting part of the second week exercise was I asked them to go spend time with this one entrepreneur they had said and said, if you were to grow their revenues by 3x in 1 year, what would you do? So these kids who had gone to the dhaba fellow actually did a scientific analysis of pattern of traffic flow on the highway, where the board should be, what kind of signage he should have, what kind of utensils should he have, what kind of menu card should he create, and came up with a business plan to say, hey, with less than 1 lakh rupee of investment, this guy can go from 5 lakhs per annum to 15 lakhs, right? More important part, Vidya, here was they came back saying we are all struggling to earn and find ourselves a job of 10,000, but my local Kirana store guy earns 50,000 rupees a month,
Correct.
right? Now, if
Correct.
I apply my mind and my technology ideas to it, maybe I can generate 1,50,000 rupees a month.
Right.
So two girls came back and said, you know what, I don't think we will go apply for some stupid jobs. We'll go back to our hometown and start a nice women-only products Kirana store.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of startup thinking that we need. You don't want, I mean, obviously there will be a pyramid, right? There'll be an X% who will aspire to be a unicorn. We'll continue to see that. But the large part, can we change the narrative of being a startup?
Yeah.
From only a technology based that you only had aspired to be a unicorn to say you can run a small business leveraging technology in your own town. And if you can generate 1-2 lakhs of income per annum per month, you will employ 5 more people.
Yeah.
I think that is the shift in narrative that we need.
Wow. This is a whole new definition of a startup. They, essentially they are also starting up. They also need capital. They also want to scale, but it's just, and they're happily scaling, organically scaling in their ecosystem. Nothing is inflated. So, Madan, can you bust another myth? It really bothers me, this whole word scale. As soon as you come to Silicon Valley, there's first question, what is the scale you have? What is the traction you have? No matter how good your product is, no matter how much your small community loves you, what is your scale? What is your traction? Can you bust the myths about scale and traction? And it's taught in business schools, not to deny.
The scaling up, traction are not bad things, but I'm only saying that they may not be the same yardsticks of success for everybody. For example, again, to take a easier example, right? I don't know if you've been to Bangalore. I stay in a sniffing distance away from one of Bangalore's most famous idli vada joints called Brahmins Coffee Bar.
Yeah. My favorite.
Yeah, I'm like, from my balcony, I can literally smell the idlis. Wow. And that close. Now, interestingly, Brahmins Coffee Bar has been in business the last 50 years or more. They still run out of the same single place store in Basangudi.
Yeah.
The guy who runs it is a good friend, and he says, listen, so I've always asked him, why not more branches? Why have you not expanded? And he says, listen, for me, my customers love me. He hires across the board some 30 or 40 people in his store. He says their families, we have fended to their families and their needs. And many of our employees' children have gone on to become engineers. Many of them are in the US. So I feel very happy that I am having a lifestyle that I'm very happy about. In fact, it's the only eatery in Bangalore that closes on a Sunday because this guy says, why should I spoil my Sunday? I want my Sunday as well.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. I mean, one of the legendary places, we talk about it here in Silicon Valley, we miss that. So
now, would you call this guy an entrepreneur? Absolutely. Wouldn't you call this guy a job creator? Absolutely. Is he on the way to create 1 billion smiles with his idlis and vadas? I think he's already crossed the 1 billion smiles many years ago, right? Now, but if you were to then create a concept and put a case study and then ask, how will you scale up? What is your traction? These are meaningless questions for him as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So that's one way to look at it. The other way from a social space is that it's not scaling up. I'll argue it's scaling out. And there's been a lot of articles written on it that I think the famous, whatever that's quoted very often is that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Right? Yeah. So especially when we're solving intractable, complex social issues, it's not about going fast. It's about going far. And therefore, it's not about a single organization scaling up, but a collective group of organizations coming out to scale out the innovations.
Then I want to bring up a little bit of edgy topic here. If you're okay, I mean, I had a stint with MIT Media Lab for 2 years. And then what they said was, if an entrepreneurs should not work on ideas which they're passionate. They should work about solutions which are needed by the market. So we tried this. And many people were put on projects they really did not want to work on. So they tried this model but a lot more problems got solved. Number one. Number two, we looked at China, and for certain cities, they don't have the concept of patenting, because whatever solution works, they come grab,
Yeah.
they implement and scale. So considering that, what are some of the things the fresh entrepreneurs can learn? Entrepreneurs who are probably sitting in college today or sitting in a corporation and they want to make the plunge, what can we change for them in terms of startup narrative? Or let's say an investor or a community of investors who want to change, what can they change to see this light?
I think you said it beautifully, Vidya. So two parts, right? Uh, this is plain marketing 101. I think Kotler in the marketing book says that when a customer comes looking for a hole, he's looking for a hole and not a drill bit.
Right,
Right?
correct.
I think
Yeah.
unfortunately a lot of us fascinate about our own solution
Yeah.
without trying to understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's like many times we're like a hammer looking for a nail.
Exactly.
Because I have a solution, I want to find somebody to solve this for.
Yeah, I'm a PhD in AI. I'm going to use AI no matter what.
Exactly. You might still use that as a tool, but that's not you have to frame the problem.
Exactly.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurs, my learnings and continuing lessons is that you had to spend an inordinate amount of time in trying to define the problem the right way.
Yeah.
And therefore, your understanding of the customer, their needs, their wants, and what is the value that they seek is very critical.
Yeah. So can I say that if you really understand the problem, if you spend so much time, maybe many of the startups will not happen because they're
Exactly.
chasing a mirage and there will be less failures, right?
Exactly. No, I mean, a couple of years ago, I was mentoring a startup which had built a fascinating education in a box solution. And when I asked him, saying, "So, how many customers have you spoken to?" He said, "2." Right. So, I challenged him to say, "Stop working on your product right now. Don't invest in another 1 rupee more. But in the next 6 months, can you go meet 100 customers?
Yes.
And then come back.
Yes.
And then we will have a chat." He came back 8 months later saying, "I've met your 100. I now realize that out of the 20 features in my product, I will need only 2. And this is the problem I'm solving."
Fantastic.
Right. So I think a lot of us jump into solution mode without understanding the problem. Two is that uh, many times we don't recognize the systemic issues around in solving those problems. And we think just my solution alone or my product alone will solve the problem. Yeah. So the second lens to wear is the entrepreneurial collaborative mode. To say, how can I build a part of the solution, which could be my solution, but how do I integrate with the ecosystem?
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
and third is that unfortunately in our education system, corporate systems, we are taught how not to fail.
Yeah.
Failure
and how
is such a dreaded word.
Yeah, failure and how to compete and win. 2 things.
Yes, exactly, right? It should be about learnings and collaborations rather than failures and competitions.
And if you take out globalization from the picture, these kids can flourish in the local language. Why do they need English?
Absolutely. And we use English mostly as a confidence unlocking tool. Right? It's just that again, the narrative that's fed to them is that if you don't speak English and if you're not savvy on computers, you're not good enough. Now, to an extent, I believe, because as you said, if you take away the globalization aspect, but globalization opens up a lot of economic opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So what we have done is we've touched about 25,000 youth across, and I've seen massive transformations in each and every one of them.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh my God. Madan, this was probably one of the best podcasts I have done in a long time.
Thank you.
I
enjoyed it as well.
No, you're like Yuval Noah Harari and Malcolm Gladwell and Bill Gates and B.V. Jagdish. You're a mixture of all of the mentors I really look up to and admire. Because B.V. also talks about kindness, and our dear friend, our mentor as well.
Yeah.
And this is just such a fantastic, fantastic session. We should definitely have you back on our show. and we'll do something better, so that the entrepreneurial community, the youth community, and even the education community, whatever is involved in education, building the ecosystem, they can participate. So with that, what is the best way for someone to collaborate with you, or reach you? Let's say the audience wants to collaborate with you. How can they get in touch with you?
Many ways. Yeah, I'm usually available. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. My email ID is available out there. Drop me an email. Happy to collaborate, and I think that's the only way we can all move forward. So any one of you out there who has any ideas, any which way that I can be of help, happy to volunteer and say I'm at your service.
And you are in the entrepreneurship and education space, correct? Those two.
Yeah, I mean, the entrepreneur, the youth, and I'll say education spreads across to skills and vocational learning. My dream is that how can we make every youth a transformed youth, every transformed youth an entrepreneur, and every entrepreneur a change maker.
Wow.
So if any of these words resonate with you, let's talk.
Oh, fantastic. With that, with a lot of reluctance, I have to call this session to a close. All of you guys who are not able to digest this amazing session, watch it again till the end. Watch it again and again. Watch it every day, and do one act of kindness. Madan's most amazing quote for today. And let's all see a unicorn with a billion smiles. Thank you, Madan. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Chatting up, and look forward to working together in many ways.
Let's do. Thank you.